Hi, I'm Josh, and I am so grateful that you've chosen to spend some of your very valuable leisure time with me today as I talk about another book haul. So just the other day I turned 46 years old and I received a gift certificate to Chapters Indigo as a birthday gift, which is sort of pretty much the major book chain in my area of Southern Ontario here. And I also had another gift certificate floating around from Christmas still. So I took those gift certificates and I bought myself a handful of books. So the first book I have here is Blood Song, the first book in the Raven Shadow trilogy by Anthony Ryan. This, of course, is a fantasy trilogy. I believe it's classified as grimdark, which is a genre that I really wouldn't have been at all interested in had I not started reading the First Law trilogy. I'm on the last book of that particular trilogy, and spoiler alert, I'm going to have a lot of great things to say about that particular trilogy. But this is also a book that I've heard highly recommended from other booktubers, such as Yolene from Yolene Reads. Even though she is a big Robin Hobb fan, I do still very much trust her judgment, and do recommend that you check out Yolene Reads. It's an excellent booktube channel. So I just have book one of this series. I've started just buying book one, reading the first book in the series, and then seeing if I like it enough to get the rest of them, because I used to just buy the whole series at once, and I've been burned a few too many times by not enjoying book one enough to continue with the rest of the series. So that's why I got Blood Song here. The next is a duology. We have Strange the Dreamer, and we have Muse of Nightmares, the two parts of the Strange the Dreamer duology by Laini Taylor. I don't know much about this little duology other than it's a fantasy series that is supposed to have really amazing writing. I don't have the first clue what the books are actually about, but I have heard just rave reviews about the writing style in these books. So this one I did take a chance and decided to get both books because it was only a two-part series. So I do hope that I will enjoy these. Third up, we have a standalone, and this one is Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Adrian Tchaikovsky is an author who I've heard a lot about in the past year or so, both in the fantasy and the sci-fi spheres. He writes both, and so I heard very good things about Guns of the Dawn. It is apparently a flintlock fantasy, so a fantasy novel set more in the early era of gunpowder than your typical standard medieval fantasy. I have heard from at least one person who disliked this book, but I've heard from a lot more people who really enjoyed it. So it is a standalone, and so I figured I can't go wrong with that. Now, the next two books are books that are kind of special editions. Before I move on to talk about some special illustrated editions, I just want to send out a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. It means the world to me that there are people out there who are willing to support me in such a deep and meaningful way. I don't take it at all for granted, and I'm just so grateful and thankful. In particular, I want to thank my higher tier supporters, Joanna, Paul, Mojo Dam, and Esmond is Perfect. But to everybody who donates to me on a monthly basis, that really is a special thing, and you are just amazing. So back to the books here. First of all, I have The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, and I haven't had a lot of success with Gaiman's books. I've mostly found them to be okay, although I did quite enjoy the Graveyard Books, the graphic novel version of that. However, I have heard a lot of great things about this book, and it is a very short book, especially when you consider the fact that this is an illustrated edition. It has all these sort of black and white sketches throughout the book, and so yes, it is a very short book. If you were to take out all of these illustrations, it would be much shorter naturally. So again, I figured, well, with a book that's this short and is spoken of so highly, can't really go wrong, can I? And I have actually already read it, and so look out in the very near future for a video about this book. I have to say, I won't go into it too much because I will talk about it with my review, but the illustrations themselves were kind of a mixed bag. Some of them are really cool, and some of them are just kind of big black smudges that don't really add much to the book itself. So, you know, we'll get into that when I talk about it in my review. And yeah, so some of the pictures are really quite nice though. And it's always cool to have an illustrated edition. Speaking of illustrated editions, this is really the first time when I talk about my next and final item here that I went out of my way to purchase a special edition of a book slash series that I already owned. And it is because it is one of my favorite series of all time. And we're talking about The Lord of the Rings. Well, we're talking about The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, done in this special illustrated edition. I had seen this previously in my local Indigo Chapters store and really wanted to buy it, but the price was just beyond my budget. However, when I received these gift certificates, I thought, ooh, I finally have some money that I can sort of spend on books that I already own, which is something I would normally never do. And I can treat myself to this very, very special box set here. Now, this is also illustrated with beautiful color illustrations. I'll just pop open The Hobbit here and we'll see what we can find here. They're also hardcover, which I don't buy hardcovers anymore generally, just because I enjoy reading softcover books a lot more than hardcover books. But because this is a special edition, I am quite happy that they are in hardcover, so that hopefully they'll be more durable than a softcover book would be. So yeah, there's all these full color illustrations that I thought looked really neat. And like I said, well, it's not my #1 fantasy series anymore. It was for many years, but in recent years, a few other series have overtaken it in terms of my top spot in the fantasy genre. It does hold a very, very special place in my heart. It's a series that was first read to me by my parents when I was a young kid, and that I reread when I had grown up as well. And so it's a meaningful book series to me. So those are how I spend my gift certificates. If you've read any of the books that I've just shown, please let me know what you thought about them. I'm very curious to hear. And if you haven't, just let me know what books you've been reading in general. I'm always interested in hearing what you're reading, what you're currently recommending. And hey, I'm just grateful that you watched this video. Thanks so much. Hey, it's Josh. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you could consider doing one of the following things, I would appreciate it. Maybe give me a like. More in the era of gunpowder. In particular, I want to thank my higher tier supporters,